Can you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Begin with seat. Can you state your name and spell it?
I am Officer Adam Yurkovsky. That's Yurkovsky, Y-U-R-K-O-V-S-K-Y.
All right. And how are you presently employed?
I'm currently employed with the City of Peachtree City Police Department here in Fayette County, Georgia.
All right. And how were you employed prior to that?
Prior to that, I was employed with the City of Canton Police Department for about 7.5 years.
All right. And what were your roles and responsibilities while at Canton?
I was a uniform patrol officer. At the time of this call, I was a corporal, but at the time that I left, I was a sergeant.
Okay. And at the time of this call, are you referencing December the 8th of 2020?
That's correct.
Okay. And what were your roles and responsibilities at that time?
I was a corporal on the uniform patrol.
All right. And do you recall your response to 215 Mountain Vista Boulevard in Canton on that day? Okay. Tell me what time you arrived.
I arrived roughly, I believe it was 2:17, I believe.
Okay. And tell me who was already on scene from law enforcement when you got there?
Sergeant Soto was already on scene, as well as Officer Gary Pruitt.
Okay. And were any fire and rescue or EMS there yet?
Not yet, no ma'am.
Okay. And what did you do when you entered the residence?
I entered the residence and proceeded upstairs as advised by the homeowner to where they were. I went up the stairs, went down the hall, and entered a bedroom where Sergeant Soto was in the room, as well as Officer Gary Pruitt, a Jason Spillers, a Benjamin, as well as Chloe, driver, and the infant Hannah Nicole.
Okay. Who was rendering aid to Hannah and Chloe when you entered the room?
Jason Spillers and Sergeant Soto were currently providing aid to
Okay.
Chloe.
And who was rendering aid to Hannah?
Benjamin.
Okay. And what did you do at that time?
In entering the room and getting the wave of what happened, I saw the infant being cared for, and that's where I went. I chose to go to the infant to provide aid because I saw Sergeant Soto was with Chloe, and obviously responding. We didn't know exactly what had happened yet. I didn't know who this Benjamin subject was at this current time and his role in the matter, so I took over the role for life-saving measures from him, and I had him back away and out off the scene.
Okay. And this jury has previously watched Sergeant Soto and Officer Pruitt's body cam footage, but from your perspective, what did you observe about Hannah's condition when you approached her?
Her eyes were open. She was flush, pale. In my professional opinion, it did not look well.
Okay. Did you observe any injuries on her at any point?
I did. There was a bloody T-shirt that was compressed against her neck, in which blood was coming from, as well. There was a blood-soaked mattress that she was laying on. Okay.
Did you ever visualize any kind of wounds on her while you were trying to render aid?
I saw a pool of blood that was coagulating on the neck area when I kind of peered at it. So that's where I assumed the wound would be, but I never could kind of see it to see where the wound was.
Okay. And you indicated that her eyes were open and that she was flush. Did you see any signs of life in her when you were trying to render aid?
No, I did not see any chest rise. I flicked the feet to see with any startle movement, and there was none.
Okay. And what did you do to try to render aid?
I continued to hold the neck area, and then also understanding the fact of the call and how much blood was lost and how much time it had been. I knew that blood had to get circulated as well, because in a certain amount of time there can also be brain damage.
Okay,
So I was trying to do compressions
okay,
as well as hold the neck area.
all right. And did you continue to do that until EMS arrived?
I did.
All right, and do you know who took over from you to try to render aid to Hannah?
Cherokee County EMS personnel, I do not know their names.
Okay, and after Hannah was taken by Cherokee EMS, what was your remaining role?
So when Cherokee County got there, they took over aid. From there, we tried to clear back people to make a clear path for Hannah and Chloe to get out of the residence for EMS personnel.
Okay, and did you speak to any of the parties or identify any of the parties on scene while you were there?
I did.
Okay, who did you speak to?
I speak briefly to Mr. Benjamin. I spoke to a Miss Jessica Caffigan, subject, as well as a Sarah Stiles.
Okay, and were you involved in, who was the case agent tasked with investigating this case?
I believe it was Detective Cruz.
Okay. Can you explain to the jury a little bit about the role of like patrol and first responding officers versus criminal investigations?
So obviously on patrol, when you respond to a scene like that, it's very chaotic. You really don't know what's going on. So your job is to try to, one, preserve life, preserve evidence, and then also try to gather as much information as you can. You try to separate parties, and then in a call like this, when detectives come out, they go more in depth with the call, and we assist from there.
Okay. Tell me what you mean by separate the parties and what you did in this case.
So with Jessica, Sarah, and Gerald, who was also on scene, I know Jason Spillers was with Officer Pruitt, and Sergeant Soto would talk with Benjamin. And so I went downstairs. I made sure the females were separated. That way, there was no talking. There was no corroborating of stories or probably sometimes misremembering information.
Okay. Is that something that is routinely done until people can be interviewed about what exactly happened?
Yes, for basic investigatory purposes, you always try to separate parties. Okay.
So you indicated that Officer Soto was with Benjamin. Was he in a separate room talking to Benjamin?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, and then you indicated that Officer Pruitt was with Jason Spillers.
That's correct.
And then you went and separated who?
Jessica Caffigan, I believe her name was, and then Sarah Stiles.
Okay. And where was Jerry, the homeowner, at that time?
Jerry was kind of walking around. He'd kind of be in one room or be outside and then kind of go back in. And as more officers arrived, we were able to have more officers stay with one party, stay with this party, stay with this party.
Okay.
But my initial, until there was more officers there, was try to make sure that they weren't talking as much.
Was that pretty immediate, the separation of the parties, after Hannah and Chloe were taken by Cherokee EMS?
Yes.
Okay. And then what information do you have about who was taken to Canton Police Department to be interviewed?
I escorted Sarah Stiles to the Canton Police Department.
Okay. Were all the parties escorted separately?
Yes.
Okay. Was that for the purpose of being interviewed by Detective Cruz?
Yes, and once again, obviously you don't want the parties, riding in the same car, so just to, create separation and to make sure that there's the full truth in the stories.
Okay. All right, I don't have any other questions, thank you.
Ms. Cutaway.
Good afternoon.
I just have one question for you. You testified today that you didn't know Mr. Benjamin Ben Michael prior to this?
No, I knew him.
Okay, how did you know him?
Well, I won't say knew him. I was on a call with him about 2 years prior, in which his RV got, he was backing down the road, and it got stuck because the driveway was steep, and his RV got stuck on the road, And when I went out there with him, about 4 feet in the road maybe, and when I went out there with him, and I ran his tag, his RV didn't have insurance. And I advised him, I used my officer discretion at that time to say, hey man, there's no damage, but you need to pull this RV back in the driveway and get insurance.
Okay, so it was for a traffic type situation?
Yes.
Did not involve Ms. Driver, correct?
Miss who?
Ms. Driver?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Any reason to keep the witness?
No, Your Honor.
You can be excused, thank you. Call your next witness, please.
Brooke Ice.